You are listening to part 23 of our series, The 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Hi, Gemini. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
Oh, well, looking forward to Halloween.
Coming upon us quickly.
Coming soon, soon, soon. One of my favorite holidays because, of course, I love witches and I love green witches. And I get to see lots of them on Halloween. And, of course, being an Aquarius, I love glitter and lights and color. And it's like when we turn the corner on Halloween, people start to think that it's okay now to get out the glitter and the lights and the color, don't they?
They do.
So it's always like the opening to the best show of the year, and the weather that I like the best, the cool weather. So we are in the fourth river of healing. We are in lifestyle medicine, and that is also nourish and tonify. We've been talking about nourishing. We've been talking about tonifying, and we've really focused a lot in on the tonification that we can do with herbs, and the idea of using a variety of different herbs to tonify, as well as the idea of using some milder things on a consistent or on a daily basis, but keeping the really strong and heavy ones back for really specific use and not using those kinds of tonics on a regular basis. I was with a past student of mine, and she had agreed to bring the Nourishing Herbal Infusion, and I didn't like the Nourishing Herbal Infusion that she brought with her, because what she brought was hawthorn leaf and flower. And hawthorn leaf and flower has two qualities that I don't especially like in something that I drink. First of all, it's very astringent, and astringents kind of make your mouth pucker up and dry up. And then it's tannic, and tannic is also kind of astringent, and it makes your mouth pucker up. It's like black tea. Think about black tea has tannins in it. And so I was very unhappy with the infusion that she had brought. And she said, well, I feel like my whole attitude and my whole body has just gotten like really slack and loose, and I just need to tighten up. And so I'm choosing tonics that will really like just tighten me up and bring me together and pull me together. And I said, oh, well, I guess I don't need to have that kind of tightening up, because it makes me uptight. So again, I want to be very, very clear that it's not like, oh, this is the tonic herb, or this is the best tonic herb. There's a wide variety of tonic herbs, and we want to incorporate them into our lives and into our diet. Similarly, there are a wide variety of physical things that we can do to tonify our muscles, our cardiovascular system, our emotional systems, all of the things that go into that. And needless to say, there are millions and millions of words written about what is the best thing to eat and what is the best exercise to do, and so on and so forth. And I'm doing my absolute best to not mire us down in discussions about the specifics, but to keep us sailing along with ideas about what are some general ideas here. How can I make my lifestyle a healthier lifestyle without tearing down the house and jackhammering up the foundation? What kinds of things can I do kind of as I'm moving along? And certainly things like adding more seaweed to your diet, very easy things, adding more mushrooms to your diet, expanding and broadening the diet. And I feel the same way about people's exercise, that expanding and broadening your definition of exercise can lead to remarkable benefits for your overall health, and especially for the direct physical health that you experience in your body. I'm so glad to see that walking is becoming very fashionable, And certainly right here on my country road, I see more and more people walking. And it is certainly a very low impact but weight-bearing exercise. It's something that the vast majority of people can do. It's conversational. It's friendly. I see that walking can really build bonds between people, both the people who are walking together and the people that they pass as they walk. And I see that walking has a variety of tonifying benefits for the people involved, especially when we are walking outside. And I know that many of you are going to say, walking outside for me means walking where there is exhaust and air pollution and things like that. And certainly, even for me, there can be very inclement weather on my country road. And so it is true that sometimes my walking partner and I go to the supermarket and we walk up and down the aisles until we've gotten our couple of miles in. And that is partly because I find it ever so much better for my body than walking on a treadmill. Yes, sometimes we do just, say, okay, the weather is bad, the data is bad, and we're just going to go walk on a treadmill. But it's the least effective of all walking. And we have some really good scientific studies to back this up as well, that people's mood improves when they walk outside or in an outside-like environment. Malls have become great walking places for people, walking up and down and having even walking clubs in the malls. However, you can find a way to increase the amount that you walk. You will probably find it to be of enormous benefit to you. And people laugh at me because I really do park my car as far away as I possibly can and just walk that extra bit to wherever it is that I'm going. Small moves like that can really pay off. And I want to thank all of my teachers of martial arts for reminding me of that it's the daily practice that really counts when it comes to what my sweetheart and I call physical culture, partly because he's an actor and very involved in that kind of culture, so we talk about physical culture as well, and the small, consistent things that we do that really change what's happening. Yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong are not necessarily American activities, but they are certainly not un-American, and I am glad to see them becoming more and more and more American. The introduction that I had to yoga occurred for me when I was an older teenager, and I recognized in yoga something that could give me things that I wanted for my entire life. One of my goals in terms of tonification techniques is that I believe that the tonification technique that I can do on a regular basis for the longest amount of time is going to be the technique that will give me the most. So I look at people running and I say, I could probably get some good tonification from running, but how much could I run and how long into my life could I run? And what's the risk of injury? And it doesn't have a good longevity kind of data for me. I don't see people in their 90s out running, but I certainly see people in their 90s doing yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong. These three forms of physical culture are things that if we start doing them at any age, give us benefit, and that we can continue to do for as long as we are alive. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, doesn't she mean for as long as you can stand up? No, because you can actually do all of these things even if you are in a wheelchair or even if you are confined to bed. Certainly, standing on your head is part of yoga, but it is not all of yoga. Yoga means yoke. And the yoke in yoga, like the yoke that we put on two animals, reminds us to yoke or to tie together two things. So in yoga, if we are bending forward, then we bend backwards. If we are bending to the right side, then we bend to the left side. So we are yoking. We are always noticing in yoga the contrast between the contracted side and the expanded side, the breathing in and the breathing out. Yoga gives us focus. Yoga gives us flexibility. And focus and flexibility are two things that we need more and more and more of as we age. I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to do yoga for an hour and a half on a weekly basis for the past 50 years. And I fully expect that I will be able to say right up until the day that I die that I am still doing yoga. Now, there are certain things that I have found that allow me to continue to do this and will allow me to continue to do it into quite advanced older age. And that is that I never do yoga in the morning. And this comes as quite a shock to people. And I don't think that there's any conference that I teach at that does not offer, rise with the dawn and do yoga, and I shudder. To me, yoga is about building that flexibility and building that focus in the time when my body is least likely to do those things is early in the morning. And this is true for most bodies. If we have been sleeping, when we get up, stretching is the exact time that we are most likely to injure ourselves. I suggest that most people should just do their normal activities, whatever those are, for at least an hour before they engage in any kind of stretching or strong movement, whether it be simple, basic yoga or something stronger. In fact, my preference is always to do yoga right around the twilight hour. It has to be a little earlier than that in the summer and a wee bit later than that in the winter. But that time when our bodies are kind of turning down, the light is turning down, we're moving into a more restful place, and then when we move into the yoga, we are far less likely to overdo it. When I teach a yoga class, what I find myself saying to the students over and over is, do it, but don't overdo it. So we really want to push ourselves, but we don't want to over-push ourselves. As my granddaughter says, we just don't have the smarts early in the morning to know where that line is. By the afternoon, we've got it. Our muscles are warmed. We're able to do that. What kind of yoga should you do? Well, there are many, many different forms of yoga. And I'll tell you the ones that I don't think can really be extended well into older age, and that would be Bikram yoga, which is very, very hot yoga. Hot yoga is a tremendous stressor for most people, and especially for women, it is not advised for the same reasons that I do not advise women to go into sweat lodges. During the fertile years of our lives, if we are in a very hot place, like where Bikram yoga is done, or in a sweat lodge, that is actually enough heat to cause physical malformations in a fetus should we be pregnant. So it's very unsafe for women in the fertile years to go into such hot situations. And after our fertile years, when we're postmenopausal, then when we sweat heavily, we are actually losing bone mass. We're losing minerals from our bones. So there's no particular reason for a postmenopausal woman to stress herself with a sweat lodge or with doing super hot yoga. Again, these kinds of things can be very useful for men. I've yet to have a man argue with me when I say that men thrive when they are tortured, especially if they are allowed to choose their own torture. So I am speaking here for women, and men, you will have to decide for yourself what torture works best for you. But for women, we want to avoid those super, super hot yogas. I was a student of Iyengar yoga, and I really respect Iyengar and his absolute keeping us into the pattern and the form of the yoga, but except for people who are very serious into yoga, Iyengar yoga is probably too strict and too difficult for most people. If you can find someone who does restorative yoga, or what in some circles is called yin yoga, that would be the kind of yoga that you would want to go for. One of the great gifts of yoga is the knowledge that yoga brings us, that the body benefits more by resting between the exertions than it does by just driving through. And so I find yoga to be very beneficial for my Western mind as well, because it reminds me that there are always two sides to an issue, and that if I rest and take my time, I will often see things differently. I remember the first time that I went to New Zealand, and I was teaching about herbal medicine, and my sweetheart, who is a certified yoga instructor, wanted to do a yoga class in a town where we were staying for a while. And the people that we were staying with said there was no yoga to be had. He couldn't go to a yoga class there. And that, in fact, the woman we were staying with had offered a yoga class and was nearly driven out of town because the people there believed that yoga was a religion. And certainly, we cannot deny that when yoga was first brought to the United States, it was brought with quite a bit of Hinduism, religious trappings, and so forth. And many of the yoga ashrams that I have visited, that I have taught at, there is Hinduism, and there is often a focus on this. But as yoga has become more and more Americanized, the great focus on Hinduism, the focus on it being a particular spiritual path has pretty much vanished, because that's not what Americans do. And yoga has become a physical technique with a reminder that it is a path of enlightenment. From China and Japan, we have the great forms Tai Chi and Qui Gong. Tai Chi claims to be the mother of all martial arts. And Qui Gong says, yes, you may be the mother, but I am the grandmother. I come first. It comes as a surprise to many people that acupuncture is a very, very new technique in China. If we think about it for a moment, though, we would recognize, however, that getting very, very fine needles made of steel is not something that people in China had access to even hundreds of years ago, and certainly not thousands of years ago. However, the flow of energy through the body, energy often being called qi or qi, and the patterns of that flow of energy and the points along those flows of energy called the tsubos, the flows of energy are called meridians, have been very, very well known for thousands and thousands of years. It is this system of meridians and tsubos which is used in acupuncture. But the acupuncture, as I said, is a very recent overlay. And originally, these came about through the practice of the subtle arts of Qigong and Tai Chi. Qigong encourages us to move our bodies symmetrically and subtly in coordination with our breathing so that we can actually feel the energy flows through the meridians as they move through our organs and through the energy channels, swirling and forming vortexes at each of the tsubos, so that with our movement and with our mental focus, we can move the energy in our own bodies so that it flows with the Tao, so that it flows with the way of the universe. And when our body flows with the way of the universe, then it flows like the bodies of the things we see around us, like the flight of the birds, like the curling of the cat, like the trumpeting of the elephant, like the leap of the kangaroo. We find ourselves, once we become aware of the energy, and once we have been taught some forms to help us feel and move with that energy, then we become much more likely to be able to harmonize with the energy of the universe. So these are true tonic forms, not just tonifying to the musculature, not just tonifying to the cardiovascular system, but tonifying to the deepest, broadest, farthest structures and parts of ourselves, so that muscle and bone, nerves and hormones, and all of the more subtle parts of ourselves work in harmony. And that harmony then flows through us and touches everything else in our lives, so that everything else in our lives becomes more harmonious. I think that harmony is perhaps what many people mean when they say balance. I, of course, am quite down on balance because, well, we can't ever really be balanced. We need to be in a dynamic disequilibrium. But harmony is that dynamic disequilibrium, because in and of itself it suggests two people singing two different notes. And they are harmonizing together. They are not balanced. They are not the same. And so in Qigong and Tai Chi, we are not looking to be balanced, although we might stand in an equal stance. And we understand that if we are moving something else must be moving in. And we move that understanding that is so clear in yoga into an even more subtle form. Qigong classes are now widely available across the United States. They, too, did come originally with some religious things, but that has been stripped away for Americans, so that we move right into the heart of the Qigong. And I share with you the statement made always and always by my Qigong teacher, which is, settle down. Settle down. Settle down. Those are the words. And the more that I hear them, the more I realize how much settling down I still have to do. How much my monkey mind is chattering. How much things in me are racing around. How much there is to settle down. Tai Chi moves from the open, settled, dynamic, structured movements of Qigong into a very patterned dance. Tai Chi literally translates as supreme ultimate breath, or supreme ultimate energy. Qi, again, being the energy. Tai Chi Chuan, supreme ultimate energy. And it is the focused pattern of moving our energy, or pouring our energy from one side to the other, from the front to the back, from the top to the bottom. So that we see in all three of these techniques that the tonification comes from the pouring of things back and forth, up and down, front and back. True temperance, to temper something, means to move it from hot to cold, so that we find that ability to be flexible, to have the flexibility to withstand the stressors that life will always throw at us. I have studied for about 25 years the classical form of Tai Chi, which is the Yang style. We were talking about Yin yoga, soft yoga, and Yang style Tai Chi is a harder style. It is a more specific thing, so that there are specific patterns and ways to move the body. One of the people who has done a lot of work in bringing Tai Chi to the United States is Montauk Chia. And I highly recommend any and all writings by Montauk Chia, and should you have an opportunity to actually spend time in his presence, in the presence of his amazing wife, I would urge you to do that. These are living people who have such a tremendous amount to share with all of us about how to use lifestyle medicine for the optimum health that we all really want. I'm very impressed by hearing and seeing videos of and reading that in China, Tai Chi is said to confer so much healing power that everyone who can stand in the hospital goes to the inner courtyard and does Tai Chi. Now, this is something we can definitely do top of the morning. You want to do something when you wake up? Qi Gong is great when you wake up. Tai Chi is great when we wake up because we are not unduly stretching ourselves. We are using ourselves in a very mindful manner. And so the morning starts with Tai Chi in the inner courtyard, and those who cannot stand, those who are in wheelchairs, are wheeled into the courtyard, and those in beds have their windows thrown open so that everyone can see or participate in the Tai Chi, because it is thought to be the supreme, ultimate healing. Here we feel the meridians, the tsubas. We work with the wind points, with the hara, with the wu shi points. We recognize the many different ways that energy can be moved through the body. And we begin our serious training as ordinary people who want to have their lives, or perhaps as serious spiritual seekers, or even as shamans, to begin to understand how our actions can change the energy of our own body. Why don't I talk about these when I'm talking about energy medicine? Because we are not just thinking about it, we are actually doing it. As we recall, as we move through the steps of healing, as we move through the different rivers of healing, we are coming into deeper and deeper contact with others, and then things impacting us more and more deeply. So that in energy medicine, we had things in which we could touch people, but we only touched them lightly. So that we would not manipulate the body. When we have come here to lifestyle medicine, now we are manipulating our own bodies. And I am suggesting in sensitive, subtle, and wonderful ways that we do that. And we will go yet deeper as we move into alternative medicine so that others begin to manipulate, to knead, and to work into our bodies, and that is called massage. And so we see the energy medicine with the Reiki or the hands-on healing where the body is not being moved, although it is being lightly touched. And then lifestyle medicine where we are actually physically moving our own bodies, and then to alternative medicine where our bodies are being moved for us. And sometimes people burr at me. They say, how dare you put massage in alternative medicine? That should be in lifestyle medicine. And I say, well, the real difference is that in massage, someone is doing it to you. And I'm not against massage. I'm a great fan of massage. It's a wonderful thing. But it's different than learning to move your body yourself and keep your body in that state of optimum health and optimum functioning that we are all so looking forward to. Jim and I have just about talked all of our time away. How rude of me. Do you do any of these? Do you do yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong?
I do a form of Dian or wild goose Qigong.
Wild goose Qigong, that sounds exciting.
It is. I learned it about 3 years ago from a gentleman that had been studying over in China, and I enjoy it very much.
Do you find that it's something that you can do first thing in the morning?
I can do that one first thing in the morning. I've never been one to do yoga or Tai Chi, although I'd probably come closer to doing the Tai Chi, but I can do Qigong in the morning. I find it's a nice way to start the day.
Indeed it is. So I say green blessings to you and to all of our listeners, and we will come back next week and look at a few more lifestyle medicines that I want to cover before our month is up.
We'll look forward to it, Susan. Thanks so much. And this concludes part 23 of our series, The 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.